I'm back after a week away. So the last card, simply put, was not very interesting to me analytically speaking. It wasn't a bad card. Don't get me wrong. Like I want to be clear. There's a difference between a enjoyable analytical card, an enjoyable, interesting breakdown card, and an actually good, like, entertaining card. Some of the most, like, obviously analytically speaking fights can be incredibly appealing. And that was, I don't want to say like the ultimate, but like, excuse me, UFC Paris was a little bit of that. UFC 293 from Sydney, kind of the same thing. There is not a lot of super interesting fights on this card, in my opinion, analytically speaking. There are a lot of fights that I think are going to be good on the card. And if you want, like, sort of, the breakdown on that, I'm relatively looking forward to the main event as a pretty decent potential fight. Manel Kape versus Felipe Dos Santos. That's a pretty fun fight. If you like big, sloppy heavyweight fights, Austen Lane and Justin Tafa, up your alley. I'm very interested in Daun Jung versus Carlos Ulberg. I think Jack Jenkins versus Chepe Mariscal is a really simple fight, but in practice will be very, very good. I'm reasonably interested in Jamie Malarkey versus John McGessie. Reasonably interested in Nasrat Kaparas versus Landon Quinones. We'll get into that one. That one's a mixed bag. And I mean, I'm always a little interested in what Blood Diamond can do, because he is a really good kickboxer by MMA standards, really good striker by MMA standards. He just has to find the rest of his game. And that's very, very hard to do in the UFC, but we'll talk about that later. So let's talk about the main event here first. Israel Adesanya defending against Sean Strickland, UFC Middleweight title. I am having a hard time getting particularly excited for this fight because I dislike both fighters. We'll leave it at that. I dislike both fighters pretty heavily. So that gives me very, very little, like, fan guy energy for the fight. It's one of those things, like, I don't think I hate watch any fighters, but, like, how are you supposed to, even if this has hate watch appeal, how are you supposed to hate watch when the guy who's going to win you also hate? So that's a tough one. And it's not a particularly supremely interesting fight, analytically speaking, or entertainment value wise. Now, I will say this. There's a lot of people who seem to be under the impression this is going to be a boring fight. Like, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, this will just be Izzy being boring and avoiding contact, and comparing it essentially to, like, the Jared Cannonier fight and even the Yoel Romero fight he had, and the Robert Whittaker fight. Here's the thing. This will not be the Yoel Romero fight because the Yoel Romero fight was 2 to tango. Romero wasn't engaging. Izzy wasn't engaging. Izzy was worried about the one-punch dynamic offense that Yoel Romero tends to show off, and he took a incredibly safe but always winning approach. And Romero wasn't going to knock him off that game. And Jared Cannonier was kind of the same, where, like, very scary, dynamic offensive guy, hard hitter, and Izzy is going to take a safe path to him. And Cannonier, I don't know if he lost confidence in himself or, like, whatever, or like just had no idea, but, like, just did not have anything. Like, at no point had questions for Israel Adesanya. That was particularly bad. And then we have the Whittaker fight where he's kind of fighting a little bit against type, and as a result ends up having issues and having an inability to, like, kind of close out things. Strickland does not have these problems. Strickland, to his credit, is going to take the fight to Israel Adesanya. He is going to come forward behind a jab. He is going to hit Israel because he's a good jabber. Israel is actually pretty jabbable. His game is set up to be jabbable because he loves to counter. And the problem when you love to counter is you're going to get hit and then you hit them back. And the problem with that is, of course, is that means that we're not going to face a Romero or Cannonier situation. Like, Israel Adesanya is going to have to fight. Whether that's going to be super interesting or not, or super exciting, I don't know, but there's going to be action. This is not going to be the bottom of the barrel Adesanya title defense. The problem, though, for me is I don't really see how Strickland can win. Like, there's an old version of Sean Strickland that liked to wrestle and grapple. That, like, I don't know, that door is kind of open. I mean, we know Jan Blachowicz is not an amazing grappler or wrestler and got the job done. We know that even some, like, not amazing wrestlers have had, some success making Adesanya grapple. And Strickland is actually a pretty good grappler. So there's that. But it's something he seems to have zero interest in doing. Like, he fought Alex Pereira and was absolutely willing to go kickboxing versus kickboxing. And I have no suspicions that really that's not going to be his approach to Adesanya. And his pressure-based striking game isn't very good against, like, a high-level striker. It's just that there are so few of those at 185. There's a reason that Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya relatively quickly, after focusing on MMA, relatively speaking, became top guys. It's because they bring a style that, like, is completely not really there. Like, I mean, Thiago Santos also did this, even though he was cutting way too much weight. Where it's like, just having some decent counters and good power and good athleticism and nuance to your striking game is a huge hill to climb and get over for most of the middleweight division. And as a result, like, Strickland's been able to get away with this hand parry heavy lean back. Like, that was the funny thing when he described Alex Pereira as like a tall man defensive guy. And it's like, my God, man, you are describing yourself. He just leans back and, like, parries. I just honestly expect him to get lit up. I really, really do. I really expect him to just pretty much get lit up in this fight. And get knocked out at some point. He is super, super tough. Like, he is incredibly durable. So I'm not saying, like, the first time Adesanya hits him, he's going to go down or anything. But, like, it's hard to think of him walking after Adesanya, hand parrying, moving his head back a little bit, and not getting hit exceptionally hard. Then again, he did go the distance with Jared Cannonier. Go figure. So it could go the distance. But it's just, what Strickland does shouldn't really trouble him. It really, really, really shouldn't. If we are going to get K1 Strickland, basically, kickboxing Strickland. Like, there's just a lot to work with there. There's a lot of openings. There's an exceptionally large amount of openings to just hit him really, really hard. And yes, he's going to get touched up. He's going to get jabbed. But, like, the low kicks are there. The openings to punch him are there. The openings to head kick him are there. There's a lot there. And of course, the real sour nature of this is that this fight probably should be Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. And I don't like Dricus du Plessis. I want to be clear on that. But that was the fight that Adesanya wanted. That was the fight the UFC wanted. That was the fight the fans wanted. And instead, we're getting Strickland. So that's a bit of a problem. Anyways, yeah, I'm going with Izzy to win, probably by TKO, probably by stoppage. But decision is on the table because Strickland is super tough and Israel Adesanya is willing to kind of willing to be a little bit amorphous when it comes to the finishing elements. But yeah, I don't see it being the nice thing I can say about it is I don't see it being an incredibly boring fight because Strickland will be active enough to make Israel Adesanya fight at least a little bit. Betting wise, by the way, if you're going to bet on Israel Adesanya, there is a minus 450 line at Betway 365 or Bet 365. Use that line because otherwise you're looking at like minus 600, minus 700 lines. So like he's minus 450 to minus 770, but it's like really just one line that's kind of weird. And then Strickland plus 350 to plus 500. It's never exactly great when the main event has a what are we looking at here? At its minimum a 800 point difference on the spread. Tai Tuivasa, Alexander Volkov. So disclaimer for this first. And this applies to like almost every heavyweight fight where we get someone who I actually like. I like the technical heavyweights who have games that actually seemingly fit in other divisions. And that is Alexander Volkov. He's tall, he's long, he's rangy. He knows how to use that reach. He knows how to jab. He knows how to kick. He has a pretty reasonable wrestling game. It takes a pretty good wrestler to actually bully him. He has some level of grappling. He has some level. His cardio let him down back in the Derek Lewis fight for like a long time ago. But like aside from that, he has good cardio. He's the better fighter. He is point blank the better fighter at any other weight class. He would be so far above Tai Tuivasa. But this is heavyweight. As we learned last week, or I guess we didn't, because I didn't put my picks on display. But I picked Parker Porter, who lost to Junior Tafa. This was like 2 weeks ago, right? I can't believe I'm blanking on this, but yeah, I don't think it was the France card. It was the Korean Zombie card I'm thinking of. Yeah, where Waldo Cortez Acosta and Junior Tafa won, despite the fact that I picked against them. This did not happen on the Paris card. It's heavyweight, and just being able to hit someone exceptionally hard is a viable path to victory a lot of the time. And that's what Tai Tuivasa has got. Tai Tuivasa has got nuclear power in his hands. Well, maybe not nuclear, but like heavy hands. They're fast hands. He throws combinations. He can wrestle a little bit, but like he is pretty bad as a grappler. Like if I were him, I would not wrestle with Volkov. I would not do that. Not that Volkov is instant tappings or an especially dangerous grappler, but like that's an area that like that avenue is an area that we should see Volkov do better in. But I just see Volkov being a little bit more active, piecing him up with the jab a little bit, working some kicks to the body, loves body work. Tuivasa very open to getting hit to the body. It should look a lot like that old Volkov versus Lewis fight, and hopefully he just doesn't gas out. And also, like another thing here, the big thing Lewis has that Tuivasa does not have, I think, is persistent danger. Like that is the thing that I think sets Lewis apart from the other big hitters, is that he is remarkably composed. I do not want to say he has a good gas tank, because he does not, but he has a great way of conserving his gas tank for big moments when it matters. And I don't think Tuivasa has that yet. If he develops that, I think he can be a better version of Lewis, because I think he has more fundamental striking ability, at least as a boxer. But I can't help but pick Volkov here. If he gets knocked out, I'm not going to be shocked. And I want to be clear, you guys shouldn't be. But he's the better fighter. And I can't pick against him. So I am picking Volkov to win by decision, because Tuivasa is really, really hard to finish. Even when he gets tired, he's just got a lot of durability to him. In a nutshell, how many times has he been finished? feel like I need to look this up now. Tai Tuivasa, he got finished by Sergey Pavlovich really, really quickly. He got finished by Cyril Gahn in the third round of an absolute hellacious beating. He got finished by Sergey Spivak, but that was on the ground. He got finished by Junior Dos Santos in the second round. But like Dos Santos, even 2018 version Junior Dos Santos, still a really, 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 really hard hitter. I think this is kind of the thing is that like when you look at it, when he's faced people who have like actually pretty good wrestling games and like decent stature, decent defense, he doesn't really do much. Like, went to decision with Andrei Arlovsky, but like his finishes are Rashard Coulter, Cyril Asker, Stefan Struve, a chronically bad defensive fighter, Augusto Sakai, bad defensive fighter, Greg Hardy, bad defensive fighter, Derek Lewis, during a period where Derek Lewis was not looking very, very good. Volkov just isn't either any of those. Like, he's tall like Struve, although not nearly as tall. But, like, he has way better defense than... Oh, and Harry Hunsucker, the unfortunately named Harry Hunsucker, also on the list. But, like, the only particularly good defensive fighter that Tai Tuivasa beat is the ghost of Andrei Arlovsky. So, I just have to go with Volkov. I have to ride that pony. And he is the favorite, minus 245 to 265. Tuivasa plus 195 to plus 205. So that's there. That's available. If Tuivasa wins, we will get a shoey. And there you go. Manel Kape versus Felipe Dos Santos. Now, this was supposed to be Kai Kara-France versus Manel Kape. That was an interesting fight when I was picking Kai Kara-France to win. Because I've never had a big belief in Manel Kape. I really haven't. Like, I recognize that he is a phenomenal athlete. That the physicality there is amazing. But he has just such an un-flyweight game. Like, he is a low-paced counter fighter in a division that doesn't really allow for that. It's a division that usually doesn't have the power to allow for that. And it doesn't... It generally also has like guys who are going to have a decent pace and like reasonable defense in general, at least at the top of the division. And that should cost him. Dos Santos is more your conventional flyweight. He's high paced. He's incredibly aggressive. Very Charles Oliveira-esque. Obviously, he's a shootbox Diego Lima guy. Makes sense. He's got a little bit of defense, like a little. There's a little head movement. There's a decent guard there, but his footwork does leave him out of position a lot to get hit. And the fact that he is going to throw so much means that there's a lot of openings there. So, like, ironically, that plays right into Kape's skill sets. Like, Kape is probably going to catch him out of position and hit him hard with a counter more than once. And Dos Santos is going to find that Kape is actually pretty hard to take down. Because Dos Santos is like the best part of Dos Santos' game, like the absolute bread and butter, is that he is actually really, really good at, in the middle of like a chaotic striking exchange, going yoink, single leg, boom, on your butt. He's very, very good at snatching those. And Kape is hard to take down. Kape is hard hitter. I have to take Manel Kape by TKO. But you never know, because, I mean, this is a short notice fight. This is a short notice replacement fight. We saw with Jack Della Maddalena versus Basil Hafas that can be a problem. Like, that's going to be my go-to, but, like, there are so many examples of that where, like, someone has come in on late notice and actually done way better against someone, like, really, really good than anyone thought possible. There is that possibility. There really is that possibility that, like, Dos Santos comes in and just overperforms. But I have to pick Kape. It's a smart move. I would pick him without a second thought if it was a full camp. He's minus 395 to minus 430. Dos Santos is plus 300 to plus 310. Those are wide odds. They should be wide odds. Manel Kape is pretty much a title contender. Like, they keep putting him in fights that are supposed to generate like a title shot, and it just does not happen for one reason or another. He's cursed. I mean, now, in fairness, I think two of those are like Alex Perez, who is like the ultimate cursed fighter. Just don't book him. There you go. But yeah, I got to go with Manel Kape. Justin Tafa, Austen Lane. This is a fight I broke down before. It lasted 30 seconds before Tafa got eye gouged horribly. Some things have changed. Like Tafa did look really, really uncomfortable with the 6'6", 80-inch kick-heavy frame of Austen Lane. He did. He looked legitimately... It bothered him that Lane could hit him when he couldn't hit him back. It clearly did. But you've had time to think about that. You've had time to develop that. And realistically, I have no faith that Austen Lane can actually keep that up. Like, Austen Lane is a physical specimen. Like, again, 6'6", 80-inch reach. Delicious. But he's only good in snapshots. Like, you can watch him do a single technique and it looks good and explosive and fast because, I mean, he's a former NFL player. He's an athlete. He's a huge athlete. But there is no comfort and a lot of hangups to his game that I don't think ever will go away. And like, I picked Tafa because if Tafa can just get in range to hit him really hard, I think he folds. I don't think he has like a glass chin or anything, but I think he folds. And I still think that that's probably going to happen. Please God, let this end in a knockout. I will say that much because we as fans do not want to see late round 2, probably not even round 2 period, round 3 of this fight. We really do not. So I am going to go Justin Tafa, but I don't know. It's a crapshoot. Tafa's minus 210 to minus 250. Lane is plus 170 to plus 190. Honestly, that's wider than I expected it to be. Tyson Pedro, Anton Turkalj. Oh, talk about a crapshoot. I have no confidence in this pick. Let me state that right now. Tyson Pedro is the better fighter. He's the more dangerous fighter. He's the better striker. He's the better athlete. But he comes with one round of functionality, and I don't know what it is because I don't think it's cardio. Like, it's not like he looks super tired in the second and the third round, particularly. It doesn't look like he's out of shape, lacking energy. It's just he falls apart after the first round. And Anton Turkalj will fight hard for the entire fight. I have that faith in him. I just have no faith that he's good at anything. He's supposed to be a good grappler, but I'm entirely unconvinced. The guy ends up on bottom constantly. He is a terrible striker. He has an awesome nickname with the Pleasure Man, and he has a presence to him. But once that cage door closes and locks, I don't want to see him fight. So I am left with Pedro by TKO or Turkalj surviving and beating Pedro because Pedro will self-destruct and combust into a burning ball of fire. I'm going to pick Pedro to win. He's hometown guy. He is better. I really want him to win. For Turkalj's own like health and safety, he probably shouldn't be in the UFC. I'm going with that. I'm going with that. But like, do not bet on this fight. We're going to talk betting odds. Don't bet on this fight. Plus 100 to minus 125 on Pedro. Minus 103 to minus 120 on Turkalj. So like things are pretty much dead even. Carlos Ulberg versus Daeun Jung. All right. I'm actually happy about this fight. Carlos Ulberg has finally won me over. Don't get me wrong. I right from the get-go, I was like, you know what, this guy's got obvious physical talent. He's probably going to be pretty good, but like he's in the UFC way too early. And I still say that he was in the UFC way too early, but City Kickboxing is doing a great job with him, and he's becoming better and better. He's 6'4". He's got a long reach. I have it written down here. Actually, he's only 77 inches. Okay, so he's not that huge of a reach for a 6'4" guy, but like 6'4", 77 inches, quick hands, good power. Seems like decent durability, actually. And like, 4'205", a pretty comprehensive and nuanced kickboxing game, honestly. Throws combinations well, throws with power well, sets traps. Very, very nice. Deals with pressure pretty well. That was a giant missing piece I thought he was, that he was kind of pressurable when he came in, and I still don't really know what his ground game is like. So that could be a scary thing for him against Da Un Jung. But you remember his fight with Nikolai Negumereanu. He beat that man senseless. Yes, come to me so I can just keep beating you. And Negumereanu is a really, really tough dude. A guy who, against all my expectations, has actually won in the UFC. And Da Un Jung is a guy who lost to Devin Clark. I like snapshots of Jung. I like snapshots of his striking. I like snapshots of his wrestling, his grappling. He's pretty well rounded for the 205 division. But I don't like any of his fight IQ. Like, his fight with Dustin Jacoby was dumb. His fight with Devin Clark was dumb. His fight with Sam Alvey was dumb. He doesn't seem to fight with any idea of an opponent's weaknesses. Like, you're fighting Devin Clark and you're engaging in clinch wrestling exchange. That is the one thing Devin Clark is good at. You are fighting Sam Alvey and you are just kind of letting him counter you. It's concerning. I'm going with Ulberg to TKO him. Could go to a decision, and I'm interested in the fight to see what happens. Ulberg is minus 260 to minus 300. Jung is plus 210 to plus 240. That's a little bit wide. Honestly, it's a little bit wide. Like, Kape is a bigger favorite, but like, I don't know. I guess it should be the second widest betting line, or one of the widest betting lines on the card outside of Kape against Dos Santos and Adesanya Strickland, and it is, but I don't know. It feels a little bit wide. I think there's still some things Ulberg should have to prove. Jack Jenkins, Chepe Mariscal. Chepe Mariscal will look so much fun against Trevor Peek, but that was against someone who is just terrible. I don't think Mariscal is UFC caliber. I don't. We're gonna be talking about a guy later on in this card that I think is in the same boat of got a matchup with a guy the UFC for whatever reason. Well, I kind of get why they like Trevor Peek, and I get why they like the other guy, but for whatever reason, they want to kind of make a thing out of him. Kind of like the old Mike Jackson spot. Like, hey, Mike Jackson, you're going to fight Dean Barry because we like Dean Barry for reasons. You're going to fight, I'm blanking on the kid's name. Pete Rodriguez? The dude who knocked out Mike Jackson. And of course, CM Punk and Mickey Gall and stuff. It feels like Mariscal is kind of that guy. He's a veteran action fighter. He's fun. Fans will like him, but he is not very good. He is physically limited. He's not a great technician by any means, but he's fun. Again, he's fun. And this will be fun because Jack Jenkins is also a fun fighter, but Jack Jenkins is actually also really good. Jenkins has incredibly punishing low kicks. He snaps shin bones with those low kicks. He is painful. Throws good combinations. He's a solid wrestler. He has good counters. He has good scrambles. He's pretty tough. Whoops. Mariscal is also very tough. Sorry. I dropped something on the floor. But I take Jenkins at every level. He is UFC caliber. He is a high level prospect. Mariscal is pretty much not. that is the polite way of saying it. Now, Mariscal will make it tough because I don't think anyone puts Mariscal away easily. He's a tough out for anybody because he is pretty aggressive, pretty willing to throw hands, pretty willing to go at a high pace, and surprisingly durable. Surprisingly pretty durable. And that's why I'm taking Jenkins by decision. But yeah, it's not a big test. And ironically, like, Da Un Jung is a bigger underdog than Mariscal. So I probably need to bet on this fight. Jack Jenkins minus 200, minus 215. Mariscal plus 164, plus 175. Also, this is the general, like, I'm going to be leaning towards guys who are based in Oceania over guys who are coming over from the States, because that's a long trip. That's a long trip. That's a lot of upsetting your physical internal clockwork. And if you're already someone I'm like favoring to lose, it's just going to make it worse. Jamie Malarkey versus John McDessie. Looking forward to this. I'm always happy to see McDessie fight. He's a super small lightweight, unfortunately. But, like, he's fun and will do creative stuff, like spinning back kicks and stuff of that nature, basically. Like, dude likes to spin. He'll throw spinning back fists. He's really, really fun. Kind of has like I think it's Taekwondo. I might be wrong, but like kind of a Taekwondo type style. Very fun, very well adapted to MMA. But I do have to think he's going to lose. Because, one, Malarkey is Australian. Two, Malarkey is just huge. Dude is 6 feet tall at lightweight. He's big compared to anybody. And McDessie is 5'8"? Yeah, 5'8". 74-inch reach to 68-inch reach. Malarkey is not super good. But, like, he makes good decisions. He leverages his size pretty effectively. He goes out there, and when it's appropriate, he grinds on people. When it's appropriate, he range kickboxes. When it's appropriate, he'll go brawl in the pocket. He will do what makes you uncomfortable. And while I don't think he can do that to John McDessie has some obvious, like, just limitations. He's 5'8". He's going to cede a lot of range tools to Malarkey. If it does go in close to like the clinch or to a wrestling situation, Malarkey can probably get him down, can probably control him because, again, he's huge. And if he can't get him down, he can probably push him to the cage. Like, a lot of people have had success doing that, where they can't quite get McDessie down because dude's got really good balance, but they do have the ability to just grind on him. That's an option right there for Jamie Malarkey. So I am taking Jamie Malarkey by decision. I think McDessie cooled KO. It's on the cards. It's possible. I would probably prefer it. McDessie's Canadian, for one thing. And for another thing, that would be the more exciting version of this fight. But, like, this should be a fun action fight between two guys who work really hard and show good fight IQ. Malarkey is minus 250 to minus 280. McDessie is plus 200 to plus 225. Nazar Kakparas versus Landon Quinones. Who is this supposed to be? I'm trying to remember. This was supposed to be... Okay, it's not listed on the canceled bouts on the card. Who is Kakparas supposed to fight? Sam Patterson. Right. And he was supposed to fight Jamie Malarkey before that. Kakparas is just good. He was like one of those super prospects that never really panned out. Like, it was like, oh, this guy is actually pretty athletic, pretty explosive. He could do some things. And it just kind of never really happened. He just kind of stayed blandly well-rounded as a fighter who could do a little bit of everything. But if you make him go into deep skill sets, he loses. Quinones is not that guy. Quinones is like kind of the same. I did a lot of like studying for him for the Ultimate Fighter season. Don't let the loss to Jason Knight sour it too much for you. Number one, Jason Knight is, actually a pretty good fighter. But like, Landon Quinones is one of the better prospects from it. He's got links to the Goat Shed as well as Kill Cliff. Means he's got good coaching. Means he's got good things going on there. He's got a well-rounded game. He's reasonably athletic. But like, he's the sort of dude that just... He's Kakparas light. Like he's not as athletic as Haqparast. He doesn't have the physical upside that Haqparast does, and he's probably doesn't even have the depth of technicality that he does. He's Haqparast, a little bit lower in the evolution, and that's why I got to go with Haqparast by decision. He is a massive, massive favorite at minus 475 to minus 530. I think that's got to be influenced by the fact that Quinones lost on the Ultimate Fighter to Jason Knight, because like I'm looking at other fights on this card and looking at other favorites and just thinking that like there's probably a reason that this fight should be a little bit closer. Like I think this fight should be closer than Mariscal Jenkins. We'll just put it that way. Of course, that could just mean Mariscal Jenkins is way too close. that is the answer. Anyways, it'll be fun. It'll be interesting. Let's see what happens. Like I said, Haqparast 475 to 530 favorite, 360 to 380 on Quinones. It does kind of ruin this whole like they still even now on the Ultimate Fighter try to act like you're not gonna get a contract if you lose on the Ultimate Fighter, brother. They even did it like with like the Katona Gibson fight, which was like an absurdly good fight. Like it was a lighter weight class Bonner Griffin, and they're like, it's just gonna be a shame that one of these guys is not gonna get signed. It's like they absolutely will. Like you lose on Dana White Contender Series, you still get signed. You put on a terrible performance on Contender Series, you still get signed. So I just wish that narrative would die in a burning fire. Blood Diamond versus Charlie Radke. Okay, so this is the other one, the Mariscal-esque fight. Radke does not belong in the UFC. He's a 5'9" lightweight fighting at 170 who's 7-3. He's okay. 5'9" is not impossibly slow for the weight class. Like, but Jeremiah Wells is 5'9" and a complete mammoth of a man. He is a muscle with legs. Radke is a slim 5'9". He is small. He's also more or less a guy who wants to strike. Like, he's got some submission wins, and like I actually think he's got a good back take scramble game. But like, he does look like a guy who wants to go out there and throw hands. And that just seems like that'll play into Blood Diamond's thing. So I still don't think Blood Diamond is all that good. He's a reasonable kickboxer for MMA. He's an above average kickboxer for MMA. But like, well, he's not instant sub as a grappler. Like, he lost to Orion Koshi, but like Charlie Radke is also pretty bad. I'm gonna go with Blood Diamond by TKO. I'm gonna bet on him because he's plus 240 to plus 270 according to Best Fight Odds, and Radke is a minus 300 to minus 350 favorite. So I'm not saying bet on it, but I am saying I'm going to bet on it. And it's not some misplaced idea that like Blood Diamond is ever going to be particularly good. He's not, but I have to think that City Kickboxing has slowly but surely been making him better. And that, realistically speaking, Radke is pretty bad. There you go. Plus, travel time and so on. Gabriel Miranda, Shane Young. I don't know who to pick in this fight because I don't like either guy. Okay, correction. I actually do like Shane Young. He's a good volume kickboxer. Like, I do actually like him. I think he makes reasonably good decisions. I just think he's not athletic enough. And Gabriel Miranda is also not very athletic. Is coming down to 145, which I don't think will really solve much for him. He's just kind of like a random submission hunter guy. Either Young is going to win a decision where he just outpoints Miranda on the feet, stuff some takedowns, get some things done, or Miranda catches a submission and wins. I'll go with Young by decision. He's the favorite, minus 162 to minus 177, Miranda's plus 136 to plus 145. I don't think either guy will be in the UFC very long. Which is a shame, because again, I like fundamentally what Shane Young wants to do. I just think he doesn't have the athleticism. And then finally, we got Kevin Josette versus Kiefer Crosby. Josette is a judoka. He's naturally very, very tall, 6'2", 75-inch reach at 170. Again, 6'2". We just talked about Charlie Radke in the same weight class at 5'9". 6'2", 75 inches in reach. Has some decent ideas about the range game, but it's clearly a work in progress. I expect it to look better, though. He is at City Kickboxing. That is their game. I assume he will get better and better. And he has some cool judo throws. Doesn't have a great finishing rate on the ground or anything like that. But, and actually he can honestly be out-scrambled. But, I don't know. He seems like a perfectly fine prospect that is made the right choice of who to train with, to add auxiliary skills to his main game, and basically make it into like a good out and in fighter where like at range he's going to land some low kicks, work his jab, work some combinations, and if you get in too close, he can clinch up with you, take you down. He seems pretty composed. Like he's a guy who's actually had some legitimately bad moments in fights and kept going. So like I don't question his composure or mental toughness in a fight. That's nice. Kiefer Crosby is a guy who got hyped to me, and I think I've unfairly judged him. I listen to a lot of Irish MMA podcasts because they cropped up around the Conor McGregor wave, a lot of them, and I enjoy them. I really do. But this tends to mean that anyone vaguely associated with Ireland and Conor McGregor gets overhyped to no end in my ear on a regular basis. And Crosby's just not that good. He seems small for the division. He has fought at lightweight before. But, he's not a bad offensive striker. He throws with combinations a little bit. He has some offensive grappling. But, he's got poor submission defense, and he's incredibly hittable. So, I see him trying to pressure Josette. I see him having some success doing that because Josette's evasion footwork is a work in progress. But, if he does get in close, I see him getting, judo tossed onto his butt. A lot. And Josette winning. Because, like I said, Crosby has some potency offensively, but he is very, very hittable. And Josette should be able to hit him a lot. Should be able to take advantage of the fact that he has to come in close to be effective. And he'll get taken down there. He's got 5 inches less of reach and 3 inches less of height. And, that's about it. Betting-wise, Josette is a minus 155 to minus 64 favorite. Crosby's plus 128 to plus 135. Mind you, this is a French fighter versus an Irish fighter. It feels like it would have been more belonging on the card last week, the UFC Paris card.
Connected.
Unfortunately, something has
disconnected.
booted up. I didn't want to. Anyways, I think that's a sign that we are calling it a night. And you'll see this on Friday morning, basically. And that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed. Check out the links and the social medias down below. I'm working my way through getting us to the point where the fight sim is officially live. Right now, I'm just kind of doing the regional stuff. Everyone's getting their amateur fights out of the way and crawling up the regional rankings, and then Discord MMA, the promotion to, end all things. Anyways, check that out. I will talk to you after the fights.